Tonight, let your mind drift beneath the moonlit waves, where the ancient sea whispers secrets older than time. Close your eyes, feel the gentle sway of the ocean, and let yourself be carried into a world where gods walk beneath the tides, where every ripple holds a story, and where calm and wonder await in the quiet of the deep. In this story, we follow Poseidon, the timeless guardian of the seas, as he moves not with storms, but with the soft rhythm of dreams. The sea was breathing tonight, slow, deep, endless, as though the entire world was asleep upon its chest. The moon hung low above the horizon, silver light spilling across the rolling water, and somewhere far beneath, in a palace made of coral and pearls, Poseidon, god of the sea. Stirred from his eternal calm, he rose from his throne, his trident glowing softly, not with fury, but with the rhythm of the tides. Around him, the ocean moved in gentle waves, and the creatures of the deep bowed their heads. The whales sang low, the turtles drifted near, and the coral shimmered like starlight in motion. For tonight, Poseidon did not rule as a god of storms, but as the keeper of dreams beneath the waves. He walked through the quiet gardens of the deep, fields of soft seagrass that swayed like the world's slow heartbeat. The currents carried faint whispers, memories from ships that once crossed his waters, songs sung by sailors long asleep, and the laughter of children who played at the edge of the sea. All of it lived here in the memory of the ocean. Poseidon listened. Every wave, every ripple carried a story. Some were joyful, tales of love written on sand before the tide erased them. Others were sad, lost to the deep. But all of them were cherished, kept safe in the folds of the sea. A gentle current brushed his shoulder, a messenger from the surface. Lord of the tides, it murmured. The winds grow restless above. The moon calls to you. Poseidon lifted his gaze upward. The surface shimmered faintly with light. With a thought, he ascended, gliding upward through layers of sapphire and shadow until he broke through the water's skin. The world above was calm, stars glittering across the dark sky, waves whispering against the shore. He could feel the pull of the moon, his sister in the heavens, guiding his tides with her silver hand. Together, they moved in harmony, she drawing, he answering their dance older than time itself. He smiled, and with the softest motion of his trident, he calmed the waves even more, smoothing the restless ripples until the entire sea lay still, a perfect mirror of the night sky. It was in this silence that the ocean dreamed, and through it, so did the world not far away. A fisherman sleeping on his small boat stirred and smiled, dreaming of calm waters and safe return. A child by the shore slept to the sound of the waves, her dreams filled with glowing shells and dolphins that sang. Even the stars seemed to shimmer a little softer, lulled by the steady rhythm of Poseidon's heart. The god looked upon the world and felt a quiet peace. He had seen empires rise and fall, storms rage and fade, but the sea always remained, endless, patient, breathing softly beneath the sky. Rest, he whispered, his voice rolling through every tide and current. Rest, all who drift upon my waters. And so the waves obeyed. The world slept. The sea held its breath, and in the deep, Poseidon closed his eyes, dreaming not of power or might, but of light dancing upon gentle tides. The ocean cradled the earth, and time itself seemed to pause, wrapped in the soft song of the sea. The ocean never truly sleeps. It drifts, it dreams. Even in stillness, its heart beats beneath the moonlight, slow, steady, and eternal. Tonight, as the stars shimmered above and the waves moved like breathing silk, Poseidon walked the quiet shores of his realm. His trident was dimly lit, tracing soft golden ripples through the water, each one carrying warmth across the endless blue. Around him, the sea spirits followed, glowing forms made of light and mist, guardians of coral shells and song dot far above, The moon watched in silence, her light pouring down in silver threads. "Brother of the tides," she whispered across the wind, "your seas dream again." Poseidon smiled. "Yes," he said softly, his voice deep as thunder but calm as rain. "The ocean remembers every dream ever given to it." He raised his hand, and the water shimmered like glass. Beneath the surface, dreams stirred, the memories of sailors, the laughter of lost islands, the echo of every creature that had ever sung beneath the waves. They rose like tiny pearls, swirling around him, forming a gentle dance of light dot in one dream. He saw a girl standing at the edge of a cliff, whispering her wishes to the wind. The ocean had carried her words and tucked them safely into its heart. In another, he saw a lonely whale singing through the dark, searching for its kin, the melody still echoing through time. Each dream was a part of him, and he cherished them all. Poseidon turned his gaze toward the horizon, where clouds shimmered faintly with hidden lightning. "The world above grows restless," he murmured. "Waves shift, hearts change, but the sea must remain steady." He lowered his trident into the water, and the waves parted like silk curtains. From the deep rose a creature vast and ancient, Delphora, a guardian whale of the dream currents, her eyes shimmering with the light of countless dawns. "Old friend," Poseidon said, touching her brow gently, "tell me what the ocean dreams tonight." Delphora's voice was like a song carried through water. "It dreams of balance, my lord. The tides shift unevenly. A voice calls from beneath, something ancient stirs." Poseidon's expression grew thoughtful. "Then we will listen," he said. Together they drifted across the sleeping sea. The stars shimmered above, reflecting upon the waves like 1,000 watchful eyes. Beneath them, strange lights moved, slow, glowing shapes that pulsed in rhythm with the tides. They passed coral forests, glowing faintly, where small sea spirits hummed lullabies to the current. They passed ruins of ancient temples long forgotten, covered in moss and pearl, where faint echoes of prayers still lingered. And then, deep below, where even light dared not travel, Poseidon felt it, a pulse, a slow, resonant thrum that rolled through the water like a heartbeat older than his own. He listened, not with his ears, but with his soul. Something beneath was awakening, not in anger, but in longing. A creature from before time, resting in silence for ages untold. Poseidon placed his hand over the water, calming the ripples. "Rest easy," he whispered to the depths. "We will not disturb you. The sea still holds you close." The pulse quieted, fading back into the endless rhythm of the ocean. Delphora sang softly, her voice blending with the waves, and the sea once again fell into calm. Poseidon looked to the moon. "All dreams must be guarded," he said, "even those that sleep beneath the waves." And so, as dawn began to touch the horizon with soft gold, Poseidon returned to his coral throne, the ocean breathing gently around him. He knew the world was changing, the winds, the tides, the hearts of men, but as long as he listened, the sea would remain whole. He closed his eyes, his hand resting upon the water, and felt the rhythm of the deep, the song of every dream still waiting to be born. The ocean dreamed on, and somewhere in that endless dream, Poseidon listened still. The ocean had grown still, too still. Beneath its endless skin of silver blue, something ancient was stirring again, not in anger, but an awakening. A sound as deep as memory trembled through the water, soft yet vast, as if the sea itself had taken a breath after an age of silence. Poseidon stood upon a ridge of coral that shimmered like starlight in the dark. Around him, the water was thick with quiet, not the calm of rest, but of anticipation. The sea spirits hovered nearby, their forms glowing faintly in the dark, watching their god with wide, uncertain eyes. "It wakes again," whispered Delphora. The guardian whale, her immense form gliding in the shadows. The heart of the deep. Poseidon nodded, his expression calm, though his eyes were thoughtful. The ocean remembers every soul that ever touched its waves. Even the oldest dreams must one day rise again. He stepped forward, his trident glowing faintly with turquoise light, guiding him downward, deeper, past forests of kelp that stretched like ancient cathedrals, past canyons carved by forgotten currents, down to where even light itself had long since fallen asleep. The deeper he went, the quieter the world became. The sound of the surface faded until only the slow beat of the ocean's heart remained. And there, at the center of that stillness, he saw it, a shape vast and sleeping, coiled upon itself like the body of a god-shaped serpent. It was Thalassar, the heart of the deep, a being born before the first tide, older than Olympus, older even than time. Its scales shimmered faintly with the light of the world's beginnings, and with each breath it took, the ocean moved ever so slightly, the source of every current, every tide, every wave. Poseidon approached slowly, reverently. "Old One," he said softly, his voice rolling like the tide over sand. "You have slept through storms and stillness alike. Why do you stir now?" A low hum answered, vibrating through the water. It was not a sound but a feeling, a memory spoken through the sea. "A dream," said the voice of Thalassar, slow and deep as eternity. "The world above changes. Its breath grows faster. The winds no longer sing as they once did. I feel it through the water." Poseidon lowered his gaze. "The mortals have grown restless," he said. "They forget the rhythm of the tides, the balance of give and return. But you need not wake. The sea still holds you." Thalassar's massive eye opened, glowing like the moon reflected in 1,000 depths. "Even the sea must change, my brother," it whispered. "Dreams must move, lest they fade." Poseidon said nothing. He understood too well. For even a god cannot stop the current, he can only guide it. He lifted his trident and touched it gently to the creature's brow. Waves of calm rippled outward, soothing the trembling sea. The ancient being exhaled, its breath flowing like a soft current through the dark. "Then rest," Poseidon said. "When the time comes, I will call you again. For now, let the ocean dream in peace." Slowly, Thalassar's form faded back into shadow, the glow dimming until only the faint pulse of the deep remained, slow, rhythmic, eternal. Poseidon lingered there, hands still upon the current, feeling the weight of the ocean's heart. Above, faint beams of light began to pierce the dark, morning returning to the world dot as he rose toward the surface. The sea spirits followed, their soft light flickering like stars rising from the deep. The water grew brighter, warmer, until he broke once again into open air. The sky was pale gold, the horizon wide and peaceful. Waves rolled in slow, sleepy rhythm, and far away, seabirds cried softly in the dawn. Poseidon breathed deeply, his eyes fixed upon the horizon. The deep had spoken, and though its warning was gentle, it carried meaning. Change was coming. For now, he would let the sea rest. But in his heart, he knew that the dreams of the ocean were beginning to stir, and one day soon, they would rise again. The tide whispered against the rocks, as if echoing his thoughts. The god of the sea closed his eyes, and the ocean breathed with him, calm, endless, and waiting. The sea was quiet again, almost too quiet. The world above had turned restless dot from the edge of the horizon. Poseidon felt it. The waves no longer carried the same rhythm. They whispered strange things, hurried, uncertain, alive with mortal noise. Even in his deep realm, where silence was sacred, he could hear the hum of ships, the trembling of anchors, the clash of storms born too soon. He stood upon the twilight shallows, the light of the setting sun folding itself into the water. The ocean glowed like molten glass beneath his feet, every ripple painted in gold. Around him, sea nymphs moved in hushed circles, their hands brushing coral and light, their voices threaded with concern. "My lord," murmured Calira, her tone soft as the foam. "The winds have forgotten how to sleep." Poseidon's gaze drifted toward the horizon. There, far beyond where mortal eyes could see, clouds were beginning to gather. Not the kind that brought rain, but the kind that whispered of unrest. "The sky stirs too soon," he said, his voice deep as the current. Aeolus must feel it as well. The mention of the wind god's name brought a ripple of unease through the nymphs. Aeolus, keeper of the four winds, friend of Poseidon in calmer ages, had not been seen for a long time. He ruled the air from his floating isle, where the breezes slept in silver jars, waiting to be released into the world. But now, it seemed, those jars were breaking. Poseidon raised his hand, and a drop of water rose from the sea. Inside that single drop, a reflection shimmered, the image of sky and storm intertwined. His eyes softened. "It is time I visit the sky again," he said. The waves murmured in dismay, for Poseidon seldom left his ocean. The sea was his breath, his dream, his endless calm. But even the sea answers the wind, and if the wind has lost its peace, then the tide must go after it. He began to rise, borne upward by a great spiral of water that coiled around him like a serpent made of moonlight. The nymphs bowed low, their luminous eyes watching their god ascend into the cloud's dot. As he climbed higher, the world changed. The scent of salt gave way to air, cool and thin. The stars shimmered closer. Above him, the floating island of Aeolus appeared, a vast mass of silver stone, suspended among the winds. Ribbons of cloud wound around its pillars, and glowing jars lined its edges like watchful eyes. But something was wrong. The air trembled. The jars were open, and the winds, wild, formless, unbound, howled through the night like lost spirits. Poseidon landed upon the island's surface. The marble cracked under his trident. "Brother of air," he called, his voice rumbling across the clouds. "Why have you broken the silence of the world?" For a moment, there was only the roar of storms in answer. Then, from within the swirling mists, a figure stepped forward, his cloak made of stormlight and shadow. Aeolus, once serene, now looked older, weary. His eyes were filled with the same restless motion that haunted the skies. "The mortals," he said quietly, "they have taken the air. They cut through it with their fires, their smoke, their thunderous wings. I can no longer guide the wind. It runs wild, searching for rest that no longer exists." Poseidon's gaze softened. "Then let the sea calm it. Send your restless winds to me. I will cradle them in the tides. Let them sleep in the waves." Aeolus shook his head. "You cannot hold what no longer remembers peace." The sea god looked toward the distance, where the line of the horizon shimmered between sky and ocean. A faint smile curved his lips, but I will remind it. He struck his trident gently against the cloudstone, and the world shuddered. From the island's edge, ribbons of wind began to descend, soft, spiraling, drawn toward the ocean below. They fell into the waves like sighs, merging with the sea's eternal rhythm. The first calm returned to the sky. Aeolus bowed his head, his eyes wet with rain. "You still believe in harmony," he whispered. Poseidon smiled faintly. "I do not believe. I remember." Thunder rolled softly in the distance, not of anger, but of relief. The winds began to settle, their song weaving once more with the sea's breath. But as Poseidon turned to leave, a flicker of gold caught his eye, a strange light pulsing within one of the broken jars. He paused, frowning. The light did not belong to any of Aeolus's winds. It was older, deeper, and as he reached toward it, the light flared, showing for an instant a face within the glow, something ancient and sorrowful. Poseidon drew his hand back. "That," he murmured, is not of air nor sea. Aeolus looked away, his voice barely a whisper. It came before both. The ocean god stood in silence, the whisper of the unknown echoing through him. He knew this was only the beginning. Far below, the sea shimmered under moonlight, vast, calm, waiting. And in its depths, something ancient stirred once more. The sea had begun to breathe in golden rhythm. From its depths to its distant horizon, faint strands of light drifted upward, threads of memory that glowed softly through the water like forgotten dawns. Poseidon watched from the surface, the reflection of that same gold glimmering in his eyes. The wind had quieted since his meeting with Aeolus, but not completely. There was still something moving, something older, something neither of air nor of sea. He stood upon a wave that stilled beneath his feet, and the world around him seemed to hold its breath. The ocean whispered, "It comes again." Poseidon turned his gaze toward the horizon, and there, where the sky met the edge of the deep, a single light shimmered. It pulsed once, twice, then fell, slow and graceful, like a star descending into water. Without hesitation, he followed. He slipped beneath the waves, the surface closing over him with a quiet sigh. The sea parted before his will, guiding him down a long path of calm. The light drifted ahead, never far, never close, as if leading him to something long forgotten. He passed forests of coral where the oldest fish slept, through canyons carved before Olympus was born. The deeper he went, the more the water shimmered with that same strange gold, not bright, but alive like the heartbeat of the world itself. And then he saw her, suspended between the sea and the sky, not fully submerged, not fully free, lay a figure of light and calm. Her form was soft, woven from mist and moon, her hair flowing like the first breath of dawn across the water. The goddess between whispered the sea itself. Poseidon approached slowly. He knew her name before he spoke it. Thelena. The name carried through the water like a memory. Long ago, before the first waves had learned their rhythm, Thelena had been the keeper of balance, the goddess who bridged sea and sky. She was the breath between the tides, the stillness between storms, the pause that allowed both realms to dream in harmony. But she had fallen into slumber when mortals first began to forget the silence of the world. Poseidon stopped before her resting form. The golden glow that surrounded her pulsed softly as if in recognition. "Why now?" he murmured. "Why do you stir?" A faint smile touched her lips, and though her eyes remained closed, her voice echoed gently through the water, because the world above trembles. The sky cries, the sea mourns, and the land no longer listens. Balance weakens. Poseidon lowered his gaze. "I have felt it," he said softly. "The wind runs wild. The tides no longer follow their own dreams. Even the deep stirs restlessly. The heart of the deep," Thelena whispered, "and the breath of the sky. They are bound by me. If I fade, so does the thread that ties them." Poseidon reached out his hand, letting his fingers pass through the golden current surrounding her. It felt warm, like sunlight touching water for the first time. "Then wake," he said. "Let the balance return." But Thelena shook her head faintly, the golden light dimming. "I cannot rise alone. My strength is scattered, pieces of me hidden in the places mortals have forgotten to dream." The sea god's expression softened. "Then I will find them." Her smile deepened, soft and distant. "You will not find them easily. The fragments are bound to memory, and memory now belongs to mortals. They dream differently." Poseidon looked upward, toward the world of land and sky. "Then I will go where I have not walked in an age." Thelena's voice grew quiet, fading into the rhythm of the current. "If you do, you must tread gently. The hearts of mortals are fragile, yet they hold what even gods forget." The light around her dimmed, settling once more into a calm, steady glow. Her form drifted, caught between dreaming and waking. Poseidon stood for a long moment, feeling the hush of the sea settle around him. The balance was shifting, and for the first time in ages, the god of the ocean would have to walk among mortals to restore what had been lost. He lifted his trident, tracing a circle in the water. Above, the waves opened, and moonlight poured down like a path. "The sea will remember," he whispered. "And so will they." With that, Poseidon rose toward the surface, toward a world that had long forgotten its gods, yet still dreamed of them in every tide, every storm, every quiet moment between heartbeats. The tide came in quietly that night. It moved as though it feared to wake the dreams sleeping upon the shore. Somewhere beyond the reach of mortal sight, Poseidon walked upon the waves, his great form hidden beneath a gentle disguise. His trident was now a driftwood staff, his armor replaced by a cloak the color of twilight. The ocean rippled faintly beneath his feet, following him like a loyal memory dot. He had not walked the mortal coast in centuries. The world had changed, but the sea, in its way, had not. It still whispered to the land, still carried stories in its foam, and it was here, upon this forgotten shore, that he felt the first spark of Thelena's scattered light dot. It was faint, a pulse beneath the hum of the waves. It called to him like a heartbeat echoing from the sand. A small village slept nearby, built along cliffs that curved gently toward the sea. Its houses were worn smooth by salt and time, their windows glimmering like tired eyes. The people here still lived close to the ocean. They fished, they prayed before storms. They left shells by the water as offerings without remembering why. Poseidon smiled faintly. They remember more than they know. He stepped onto the sand. The wind brushed his hair, and the sea sighed behind him as though recognizing its master. Each step left no mark, only ripples that glowed for a heartbeat before fading dot as he walked. He heard something, a sound soft as breath. A song dotted came from the cliffs above. He followed it, climbing slowly, the waves below murmuring in rhythm with each note. When he reached the top, he saw her, a young woman sitting at the edge, feet dangling above the sea. She sang to the water, her voice delicate but sure, weaving a lullaby older than her own memory. The melody was one he knew. It was Thelena's hymn. He stood quietly behind her, listening. When the song faded, he spoke, his voice calm, deep, carrying the peace of the deep. "You sing to the sea as though it can hear you." She turned, startled at first, but when she met his eyes, she did not flinch. There was something ancient in the calm of this stranger, something that silenced fear. "It listens," she said softly. "It always has." Poseidon nodded. "And does it answer you?" "Not in words," she replied, "but in dreams. The sea speaks when I sleep. It tells me stories I don't understand." He smiled, his gaze gentle. "Then you are fortunate. Few mortals still hear the ocean's dreams." She looked out at the horizon. "I don't think it's a dream. Sometimes when I wake, I find shells by my window, ones that don't belong here. My grandmother used to say they were gifts from the sea mother." Poseidon's expression softened. Thelena's name, forgotten yet alive. He knelt beside her, his voice like a slow tide. "And what does the sea mother say to you?" The girl hesitated. "She says the world is out of balance, that something is sleeping too long, and that a traveler will come, carrying the tide in his eyes." Poseidon's heart stilled. The sea below sighed as though exhaling recognition. He placed his hand gently upon the earth. Beneath his touch, the sand shimmered faintly, and from it rose a small shell, glowing softly with golden light. The same light that surrounded Thelena's resting form. The girl gasped. "It's the same light from my dreams." Poseidon lifted the shell, turning it in his palm. "It's a fragment," he murmured. "A piece of what once bound sea and sky." The light pulsed once, warm against his hand, and vanished, dissolving into his chest. A calm spread through the air. The waves below grew smoother, slower, as if sighing in relief. He stood, gazing toward the sea. "The first has been found," he whispered. The girl looked up at him, uncertain. "Who are you?" Poseidon smiled faintly. "A friend of the ocean." Then he began to walk away, his form shimmering faintly in the moonlight. The wind shifted, and for a brief moment, she thought she saw the outline of a trident in his shadow and waves bowing in his wake. When he was gone, the sea rolled gently onto the shore, leaving behind a single word whispered in foam: "Remember." The girl closed her eyes, and the waves continued their quiet lullaby beneath the sleeping sky. The sea was calm again, not silent, never silent, but peaceful in that ancient, breathing way that made the world feel whole. Poseidon stood upon the water's edge beneath a silver sky, his cloak of twilight rippling around him. The moon floated above like a memory, casting passive light across the waves. It was here, after his long journey through mortal lands and forgotten rivers, that he returned, carrying within him the final fragment of Helena's light. He had found them all, hidden in songs, in dreams, in the quiet hearts of those who still believed in peace. Each fragment had glowed softly in his hands before dissolving into calm. And now, the time had come to return them to their source. The sea opened before him, slow and reverent, as though it too were holding its breath. He descended once more into the depths, deeper than sound, deeper than memory, until the world turned gold with light. There she was, Helena, the goddess between sea and sky, drifted where the waves met the edge of the heavens. Her form still glowed faintly, her eyes closed, her heartbeat slow as the tides. Poseidon approached, the final fragment shimmering like a pearl in his palm. He placed it gently upon her chest. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the sea began to hum. The sound was soft, rising from every current, every droplet, every hidden place in the deep. It was the same lullaby sung by mortals who had forgotten its meaning, the same song whispered by the girl upon the cliffs. The fragments answered one another, and Helena's body began to glow brighter, gold melting into silver, silver into blue. Her eyes opened. "Poseidon?" She breathed, her voice like the first tide after dawn. He smiled. "The balance returns, old friend." Her gaze moved upward where the sea met the stars. "It was never lost," she said, "only sleeping as all things do." Poseidon looked around them. The ocean shimmered with light. The boundaries between sky and sea dissolved until they were one endless mirror. The stars reflected upon the waves. The waves reflected in the stars. "The world breathes again," he whispered. Helena reached out, her touch gentle against his hand. "Because you remembered?" He bowed his head. "No, because they did. The mortals. The ones who still listen to the sea in their sleep." Her smile deepened. "Then the world will dream a little longer." A long silence followed, not empty, but full of peace. The ocean's hum grew softer, slower, until it became a single heartbeat that echoed through all creation. Poseidon stepped back as Helena's form dissolved into light, spreading across the water, rising into the sky, becoming the soft band of starlight that mortals would one day call the Milky Way, where sea met heaven. There was no longer separation, only calm, only memory, only eternal rhythm. Poseidon stood alone for a moment longer. Then he turned toward the horizon. The waves greeted him, gentle and endless. He lifted his hand, and they bowed low in return. "Sleep now," he whispered to the world. "The ocean will keep your dreams." He walked into the water, his form fading into mist, until there was only the quiet breathing of the tide, steady, eternal, unbroken, and somewhere on a small coastal shore, A young girl awoke to the sound of calm waves and found a single glowing shell by her window. When she held it to her ear, she didn't hear the roar of the sea, only a whisper, "The sea remembers you." She smiled, closed her eyes, and let the sound carry her back to sleep.